And now we need to talk about kind of what's going on with mom during this labor process. It's a very hard process. For those of you that have not had children, it's not a piece of cake. Now, let's just say that it's an individual experience and everybody's is different. Every pregnancy is different. You can have 3 kids and every one of those pregnancies will be different. Every pregnancy is not the same. Can't compare your stories to my stories. So when you hear these stories, just kind of like, don't pay attention to them, because everybody has a different pregnancy. Every child is different the way it develops in your body. The way your body responds is a little different. Whether you've aged a couple of years, your body's going to handle it a little different. But the big thing that's going on is, remember I talked to you about, you've got a big increase in cardiac output. We have more hemoglobin. We have more plasma volume. So our cardiac output goes up. Our heart is working a little bit harder because we've got more volume, all right? We have increased pulse rate, increased blood pressure, increased respirations. That's our bodies adapting to this process. Nausea and vomiting that's going on during this time can just be because of the hormone change or because of pressure on certain part of your intestines in your stomach. Usually when you go into labor, they give you an IV because they want to keep you hydrated, but also because they want an emergency means to give you drugs in case there's a problem, okay? A lot of women come in and say, I'm doing total natural, I don't want anything, I don't want any drugs, I don't want any meds, I don't want, just leave me alone, just check on me every now and then, but I need to be here in the hospital in case there's a problem. Some women can do that. Some women come in and say, yes, I've already watched the video, yes, I'm having an epidural, when can I have it? So everybody's different, and what you're going to see with young versus old, first time versus second time or third time. Mom may come in as a first timer and say, oh, I'm doing this and that, but by the time she has 3 kids, it's like, yeah, problem, give me my epidural. So,
is it harder to control the pain on an addict, like a mother?
It would be like any surgical patient, yes. So you've got to be careful with the dosage that you give, right? If they've got a tolerance, yes. And that is one way that you can determine when someone comes in and you have to give them meds. And what meds you're giving, you would think would control the pain, and they don't. Then you, in the back of your mind, you go, okay, am I going to have a problem with my baby? So you're already shifted off mom thinking about the baby then, okay? Because remember, lots of times people will not be honest with you with those intake, and those histories. You're not going to get all the facts sometimes. So you got to be careful.
As an experienced nurse, when someone asks you whether they should get an epidural or if they should do natural, what do you normally say?
Oh, honey, epidural all the way. Why lay there and suffer? Why have pain when you can enjoy the experience a little better? I mean, that's my bias and my personal opinion. But 2 of my friends were completely natural, absolutely positive. I thought I was going to try natural, but I said, yeah, okay, if it gets too bad, then I definitely want an epidural. But I didn't get that far because I had that C-section, so I just blew my whole theory, my whole plan out of the water. So
the nurse told me you would definitely know, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try. And then after I got to like 7, I was like, no, I know, I need it now. I made sure I said, you don't talk about it, you need to get it out here. Like, you definitely know.
I think Heather got to a 6, she was just like cringing, like she was trying to walk around to like get like that. She cringed in the hallway, and the nurse says, I think we need to go with that epidural. She's like, you almost fail.
Yeah, I mean, it's an individual thing, and some women can have, it's just like what pain you can handle. Everybody's different. Our pain tolerance is all different on all of us. Some people can handle it, some people can't. There's nothing wrong having an epidural. Baby's not going to be hurt from that. There's nothing. The only thing that can happen, we're going to talk about that in the next chapter, so I'm kind of getting ahead, is epidurals can slow the process down a little bit. Only because when mom feels pressure, not pain. So sometimes mom has to be guided when to push. Okay? Because, I'm laying there, I don't have that, I don't feel that gnawing pain and that burning, but I have pressure. I can feel the baby and I can feel things happening, but I don't have the pain sensation. So sometimes I get a little lazy with an epidural. And that's why we're cautious with, encouraging mom to stay on top of it, and nurses have to watch if you have an epidural. All right, so we've got that increased cardiac output. During labor, we're going to have a decreased sensation to void. it's the sympathetic nervous system. So if you're out there fighting a bear, are you worried about what's in your belly or about your bladder? No. If you're out there fighting a bear, running for your life, your sympathetic nervous system is up in your respirations, up in your blood pressure, up in your pulse rate. So I don't know if my bladder's full or not. I'm not worried about my bladder, right? So nurses have to monitor output on women because sometimes their bladders get full and they don't know it. And if a bladder gets full, it's going to what?
Blow out when you push.
That, but it's also going to impinge on the uterus to contract. If the uterus is trying to move down and that bladder, the uterus sits on top of the bladder, if that bladder's blowing up, the uterus is not going to be able to contract, right?
Okay.
So we don't want you to have a full bladder, okay? We want to try you to make sure that you are voiding, okay?
Do they catheterize?
No.
So you would just have to go use the bathroom?
Which I'm bedpan, yeah.
Wait, in chapter 9, it says.
C-sections, not vaginal.
Oh.
No, vaginal, we don't catheterize, it's just C-sections, okay? So we're back to making sure that the bladder is not going to bother your labor, and so the head can descend, because we got a small space in there where that head's got to, baby's got to flip and turn. You don't want a full bladder, 1,000 mils in there bothering that baby from being able to move around and flip. Like I said, every woman's different. Some scream, some cuss, some yell, some lay there in pain, some take it, some can't. Everybody's different, and everybody handles stress a little different. But with the baby, anytime mom is under stress and mom gets tense and tight, remember that's mom's having vasoconstriction, and that's going to impede blood flow to the placenta. And if we impede blood flow to the placenta, then we're decreasing blood flow to the baby. So we have to be cautious to make sure that the baby's heart rate is staying within the normal range of where we want it, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about babies. The purpose of a vaginal birth, why God made us this way, is to help with the squeezing of the baby's chest to help move the amniotic fluid out of the alveoli. So when the baby's born and those pressure gradients change, baby will suck in air, okay? And if there's a lot of amniotic fluid still in the bronchus and the bronchioles, baby's not going to be able to get enough air, all right? And baby's going to stay blue. That's why we do these APGAR scores when babies are born to try to determine, what's their heart rate, what's their color, what's their movement, what's their crying. So the reason why we like to have vaginal deliveries are, it squeezes out all that mucus out of the respiratory system. Now, if mom is pushing too soon, then we may have some problems with these babies that I told you about a minute ago, where the faces can swell up and the faces can get blue. They can have ecchymosis and swelling, and they have a thing called acephalohematoma, where they get a big bruise on their head, just fancy word for a big old bruise on their head. Or they get I never say this word right, we just call it the caput succedaneum.
What page are you?
183.
183.
And that's where
Oh, here, okay.
we're going to have more swelling and ecchymosis across the suture lines. That's why we don't want mom to push too soon, because baby's head is going to be affected by that. We're going to talk more about it. This is just this chapter. I told you, it repeats. This is where this chapter is introducing you to just a couple of words.
Yeah, a lot of terms in this one.
A lot of terms, a lot of definitions. So, but if you look on page 182, when I was talking about a scalp probe on the baby, evaluating fetal scalp pH, this gives me an indication, just like when you do a blood gas on an adult, I can do a blood gas kind of on a fetus, and it gives me an idea how my baby's perfusing. Are they getting enough oxygen? Because they run slightly acidic anyway, all right, because they don't have the oxygen like we have. But you can start looking at where there's problems with your babies, okay?
So this deals with their head.
It's a scalp. It's a little probe that's like a screw that you screw into their scalp. It's a little corkscrew thing that you thread up through the vagina, through the cervix, into the uterus, and you screw it into the baby's head. And it gives us an idea if my baby is going to survive. Am I going to have a baby born that I need to get on a vent right away?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know this chart then?
No, you don't need to know that chart.
Okay. And then,
It's way over their heads. No, we don't need that.
okay, and then the recording of the fetal positions, the right, left, all that we
You
need
need
to
to be
know.
able to identify that and know what it's talking about. I won't give you a diagram where you've got to figure it out, but you need to know if you see a question that has ROP on it, posterior. Uh-oh, mom's probably gonna have
Back there.
back pain. Whereas the normal ones, we like it to be anterior, left or right, so LOA or ROA is good. If it's something that's an LOT, well, this baby's laying crosswise. It's going this way, right? So those kind of things, just knowing what those words are. We already talked about the stages of labor, early moms, okay? As baby goes through labor, remember, babies has increased intracranial pressure. So if baby has an anomaly in their brain, let's say during embryonic development, a vessel didn't form right, or their ventricle in their brain didn't form right, during this increased intracranial pressure time, a baby could have a stroke. There are times, this is what cerebral palsy and some of those things are, okay? So we have to be cautious of what baby's going through. That's why we monitor baby's fetal heart rate and make sure if we identify that this baby through sonograms is going to have a problem or has an abnormality, then we are probably going to have fetal probes on these babies. Not your normal person. We don't need it, but a baby that we've identified in prenatal checkups, these would be the babies we're going to monitor more carefully. Because we want everybody to deliver vaginally, not C-section, because it's better for mom. But if something happens, then we may have to go to an emergency section. Remember, placental flow is decreased and at some point stops during the peak of a contraction. So a baby's heart rate can drop during this time, and that's normal. If a baby's heart rate drops during contraction, it's okay. It's when the baby's heart rate drops after the contraction is over that sends the nurses running, okay?
How do you say that? Akane? The peak of the contraction? How do you-
Acne,
What is it?
acne,
Is that really how you say it? Okay.
some people call it the ACE, just for short.
Okay.
The ACE, we'll say the ACE. So passage of the birth canal is beneficial because it stimulates, it makes sure that there's enough surfactant that's there, that it lubricates the lining, and it cleans out the passageways.
So why do y'all still suck? Like when the
Because that's what's in the mouth and nose.
Oh, okay.
That hasn't got all the way out. We're squeezing down here.
And it's pushing everything
Yeah, and
out.
so we have to bulb syringe to get just out the passageways.
Okay.
And then we talked about these. This is when babies are subject to a lot of pressure from mom, and it's normal. This is not an abnormality. These things can happen, and they're normal. We don't go get freaked out over this, okay? If baby's head's a little swollen, or if baby's head is molded and looks like a cone head, or if he's got some bruising on his face, we would anticipate that because we already know what the attitude was, right? We've already figured that out, so we know to anticipate baby having swelling or bruising.
Get that shiner.
The old shiner, yep, that was that chapter. Let's go on to